Hello, my name is Jason. Welcome to the channel. This video is a sermon idea for 1 Samuel 16, 6 through 12. The setting for this passage is 1,000 years before the life of Christ. Saul is king and Samuel is the high priest. But God has rejected Saul and instructed Samuel to go to a guy named Jesse's house because one of his sons is the new king. So one by one, they bring out Jesse's son, presumably starting with the oldest and working their way down, but God doesn't give the green light on any of them. Confused, Samuel asks if this is all the sons that Jesse has, and that's when Jesse remembers his youngest, who's out doing the youngest's job, which is watching the sheep. They send for him. Samuel gets the nod. This is him. So even though he's the youngest, even though he's the last to show up, God puts him first and he gets the anointing. This is God reminding them and us that he's not bound by the way we think things should go. When Eliab comes out, they are convinced that he should be king, probably because he's the firstborn. But by the time we arrive at this point in Israel's history, God has already set another pattern, where just because you're the one that arrives first doesn't necessarily mean that you're the one who will inherit the authority. From the very beginning, God has asserted his right to choose whomever he pleases. Animals are created first, but then Adam is given authority over them. Abel was younger than Cain, yet God favored his offering. Isaac was born after Ishmael, yet he's the one that carries the promise forward. Jacob is born after Esau. Joseph was the 11th of 12 brothers. Ephraim was younger but greater than Manasseh. Moses was younger than Aaron, and Gideon was the youngest of the weakest tribe. The list goes on. There's a lot more, and the message is clear. God's ways don't always fit with the way we do things. And this story in particular is a great example of that. But what I really love about this story is that it's not just about God choosing the unlikely candidate. It's also about an invitation to see what God sees. Samuel is being included in the process and encouraged by God to see things his way. He's being invited to look deeper, beneath the surface, past the obvious, through the facades of mere appearances that dictate the usual bestowing of favor. Now, as we read through the story carefully, and all these references to looking and seeing show up, and we're being encouraged to not look at physical appearances. When David shows up, we're given a description of his physical appearance. So what's up with that? Well, for me, I think the key issue is in the eyes. There was something about David's eyes that made them beautiful. What was it? Well, if we take the cues from the beginning of the story, how God is inviting us to see things his way, and we know that God sees something in David that no one else can, then it would make sense that David's eyes are beautiful, not because of the way they look, but because of the way they see. It's obvious at this point that David has the heart that God is looking for. And because David's heart is right, he can see how God sees, which helps us with the very next chapter. When the whole world sees a giant that can't be defeated, David is able to see the divine reality of a God mocker who is no contest for the creator of the universe. So yes, this is a story about David's anointing, but it's also a story about God inviting us to look deeper within ourselves and bring our broken and contrite hearts to him so he can move and mold and shape and bless. And when our hearts are right with him, we see what God sees. And there are no eyes more beautiful than that. That'll preach.